to another episode of Beyond the Mirror Ball. I'm your host, Melina, and I run Mixing It Up with Melina over on Instagram and Facebook. Today, we are diving into season 10 of Dancing with the Stars, which means we are just shy of being 1/3 of the way through this series, which means we're that much closer to the new season coming up. I am excited. Season 10, how would you describe season 10? I think for most people, season 10, the first thing they think of is Nicole Scherzinger, the Pussycat Dolls lead singer, and what she brought to the dance floor, but also the insane competition that she had with runner-up Evan Lysacek. Y'all know me. If you're new here, I'm not good with names, and I feel like I have justice in that because my name's Melina, and my whole life that's been botched. So, Evan Lysacek, the Olympic figure skater. That goes down today as still one of the most talked about competition, like the two competitors. Talking is hard today. And Nicole was, I think, the first contestant, and I may be wrong, I should have fact-checked this, that came into the ballroom with a large, how do I want to write this? She came in as a dancer and a great dancer already. And that upset so many people. And to this day, that's still an issue. And let me touch on that real quick while we're here. Oh my gosh, how could I forget? First, let us get comfy, get cozy. I am in a sweater again today. I don't know that I'll be in one again until like October. But get comfy, get cozy, grab your drink of choice. Y'all know me and my Diet Coke. There is no me without her. And let's set the tone. So we are in spring 2010, and we have 11 couples. So they had 16 last season, and we went down to 11, which is so much more controllable. Is that a word? There's just a lot less chaos, and we can put a little bit more time into said contestants and whatnot. So cheers. So one of the most popular topics in my box, since I've been doing this for a couple of years now, is it is not fair for someone to go on the show who has a dancer background. And I have a great answer always to these points of concern. The show is not about dancing as a whole, right? Ballroom dancing and dancing are two different worlds. And oftentimes a dancer cannot be a ballroom dancer. And sometimes a ballroom dancer can't do dancing. And that is why our pros today are very special, because our pros today versus where we're at right now in our series are very versatile in their experience, right? They can do contemporary, they can do ballet, they can do tap, acro, all of the dance world, but they also can do all of the ballroom style dances. So when people come on the show, for example, this season we have Nicole from the Pussycat Dolls, and people, I mean, they crushed her in she shouldn't be there. She certainly shouldn't have won. For example, this past season with Whitney, the season before that, we've had JoJo Siwa, we've had Jordan Fisher. There's always someone who has that dance background. That does not mean that they will be successful in ballroom. There are plenty of dancers who have gone on this show with dance background and not been successful, but we don't really talk about them because they weren't great. It's only when we want to harp on someone who is really great at both of them. So up until this past season, there was no one on the show as a contestant who would ever went on with a ballroom background. And that was always my go-to. No one has ever been on the show as a contestant with ballroom history, except this season, for whatever reason, they allowed Hilaria Baldwin to be on it. And we will touch on that for sure and in depth when season 34 comes around. But prior to her, no one had been on the show with competitive background in ballroom dancing. Okay, so we're gonna go first down the 11 partnerships, and then I'm gonna backtrack. I think this is one of the first seasons where there's a little bit of something that happens with each couple. And by a little bit of something, some sort of tension, drama, juice, and maybe not every couple, but I'm going through this. Yeah, I would say the only person is Buzz Aldrin, who didn't have any kind of drama with him or issue with his partner. So let's start from who went home first. Again, 11 couples this year. First up, we have the late and great Shannon Daughtry, who is the actress from 90210, and she was partnered with Mark Ballas. Again, we will go a little bit more in depth with each couple in just a second, but let me at least get their names out there. But there was shock value with her. The next to go was Man on the Moon, Buzz Aldrin. He was partnered. We got to have the joy of having Ashley back on the show. Spoiler alert, this would end up being her last season on the show. Not because she chose to. If you go back and watch my interview with Ashley, she talks a little bit more about it with me on, well, we'll get to that in a second. Then next up, we have Aiden Turner, an actor, partnered with Edyta. A little bit of drama there. Kate Gosselin, the reality TV star, the mom who had 6 babies at one time. She was, is it Kate plus 8? I think that's what she ended up doing, but here nor there. She was partnered with Tony Dovolani. I think everyone, if you watched that season, you remember, right? If you know, you know. Then we had Bachelor Jake Pavelka, partnered with Chelsea Hightower. I felt so bad for her. Then we had one of my favorite people, and again, we can go more in depth to this, but Pamela Anderson was on the show with newcomer and one and only season pro Damian Whitewood. Then we had the hilarious and beautiful Niecy Nash, actress and comedian, partnered with Louis Van Amstel. Then we had Chad Ochocinco, partnered with Cheryl Burke. Again, if you watched that season, if you know, you know. Then we had the beautiful Erin Andrews, partnered with Max. Then we had Evan, the Olympic figure skater, partnered with Anna. And last but not least, Nicole, Pussycat Doll singer, partnered with Derek. Now, let's talk about each couple a little bit, and we'll go from there. Actually, before we touch in on that, there was a shakeup with the season this year. We had our same 3 judges, and then we had Tom Bergeron return, but Samantha Harris did not come back. We had former Mirror Ball winner and model Brooke Burke come in to be the host for a little bit. She replaced Samantha Harris. Samantha has done interviews saying she did not see that coming. But she also had 2 little kids. She had some, ended up having some health issues. So I remember being sad to see her go. I remember being surprised that Brooke was the new co-host. But Brooke had what I would consider, I don't know, if you think about a TV host, especially back in the day, Brooke had that, I don't know, vibe, look to her. And she did a great job. If I'm being completely, Brooke didn't do anything bad, but there was nothing, and I've had conversations with you guys that feel the same way. There was nothing super standout about her. In fact, last fall when we were doing a lot of the polls, which I know I'll bring back, when people would talk about who your favorite host was or co-host, many times people forgot Brooke in those options, and I had to remind them, hey, she was on there too. Anywho, so there was that little bit of switcheroo change up for the show. All right, so while the obvious of that season was the Evan and Anna versus Nicole and Derek standoff, which lasted the whole season, right off the get-go, you knew that Nicole and Evan were in it to win it. And so that rivalry, that competition, it was already very evident from the beginning. And you had, well, like I said, we'll talk about them in a second. So Shannon went home first, and I remember being so surprised. She wasn't a bad dancer, but for week one, like, there could have been so much potential, and she was partnered with Mark, so you feel like, you know, that's surely you're going to go on with that, right? And her fan base, you know, 90210 fans are strong, and she had charmed. My only thought is I have to go back and be diligent in looking at the dates, but I do know, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, when she was on Charmed with Alyssa Milano and Rose McGowan, there was a lot of hostility going on that set, and a lot of different rumors at that time that were coming out about who was really difficult to work with, who is being extremely rude. And I think, and again, I'd have to go back and look at like dates and all of that, but I think at that time or around that time, people were really leaning in on Shannon being the culprit of this hostile work environment. And if you know, since then, many people have come forth that she was not the culprit, but that's a whole other storyline and allegations and all of that. So I don't know if, well, all that to say, I don't know if any of that had anything to do with why she went home so early, but I remember being surprised. And maybe people, but a lot of people didn't like Brenda. You know, this is how people's heads work. Like if you were a 90210 fan, a lot of people didn't like her character Brenda. So did they associate that? Like, I don't know. Why do you think she went home early? Okay, so next up was Buzz. Ashley has gone on to say that Buzz was just super sweet, and she had a great partnership with him. But, you know, he was older, and there was only so much that she could do. And like I touched on earlier, in my interview with Ashley, which is farther down on this, you can go see, it was a couple months ago, she thought there were times where she was supposed to be on the show after this, and it would literally be days before she was supposed to start that it didn't pan out, which is quite interesting to me. But yes, so that's Buzz and Ashley. All right, next up we had Aiden Turner and Edyta. But Aiden going home, and I think I read something, I don't remember it, but like he was extremely expressive in leaving, and then very thankful for Edyta, and then something about he danced a jig. Again, just reading and passing along what I read. The Kate and Tony probably goes down, and if you can think of something more hostile than these two, let me know in the comments. But I think these two were the most mismatched partnerships, but also like some of these couples that we see, you can tell that they're not getting along, that they have very different approaches and things, but for the cameras, they try to like, you know, hide what they can, try to simmer it, so it's not this like big dramatic thing. These two, they didn't care if cameras were rolling or not. And so let's dive a little bit more into these. I gotta get really comfy for these two. All right, so Kate Gosselin is from the reality show Kate Plus 8, or I don't know what it was when she was still married. At the time of her being on this show, and honestly, even since the show, she was known on any production set, any TV show, she was just known, I'm only saying what I read, as being a monster to work with. She was very demanding, and the way she approached her demands were very aggressive. Abrasive is a word I saw written about her. And so when I think maybe she went on the show, one, for money, two, she was just, I think Kate is somebody different now. But in this time of her life, she was living the Hollywood life, and she was living the fact that she was a top TLC show. And I think Hollywood changed her, I suppose. So she gets on this show. I think it was done for money, but also I partly think maybe it was like she wanted to redeem herself, and that did not work out. It showed a lot throughout her time on the show. Out of 11, they went home 8th. And at one point, she's partnered with Tony Dovolani. If you're not familiar with Tony's personality, Tony is, yes, he has high expectations, but you never really see him, at least on camera, be like, you always kind of saw him as like chill. Even with his expectations up here, how he approached that was always, I don't know, I just never saw him as being hard to get along with. And he was losing his cool because they were just, she wanted to fight him on anything. And as a pro, the contestant needs to lean in on the pro and trust them that they know what they're doing. And the pro it is the pro's job to work with their contestant's personality. And it seemed like he was trying, but she didn't. It almost felt like she was used to causing drama and stirring the pot and being that homemade villain. He quit at one point, like on camera, they're doing something, they get into it, and he says, you know what, I quit. And it was week two. And now he didn't actually quit, and he did apologize for what he felt was losing his cool in that moment. But yeah, now I may change my mind as we go deeper into this, but just firsthand, remembering they would go down as being one of the most like tumultuous partnerships. And we had some pretty bumpy partnerships here. Tony also goes on to say, following their time on the show, I think this is even like years later, he had to go to therapy following them to unpack like what he went through. I shouldn't laugh, but like that has to be, for a man who deals with all different types of personalities. He's been on the show for 10 seasons. He's been in the industry for years before that. Like, for you to leave that kind of footprint in him, holy moly, right? Like, now on that same season was another tension couple, but they were like the quieter version of them. But you could see it. You weren't seeing the fights and the drama unfold in front of the camera, but you could still see that tension between Jake and Chelsea. Again, Chelsea seems like a pretty laid back pro coach, while still holding the expectations of what her contestant should do, or celebrity. Chelsea has then gone on to say after the show that Jake was her most difficult partner throughout her time on the show, which should say something, because she ended up having a variety of different people as her partners. Jake was known, after being on his time on The Bachelor, as being not the nicest guy. And he went on to, he got engaged to, oh my gosh, what was her name? Oh my gosh, I even hung out with her in Orlando those couple nights. I forget. She was voted the most villainous Bachelor Nation alumni. Oh, you know who I'm talking about. Anyways, so yeah, they didn't age well either. Then you had Miss Pamela Anderson get on the show. I've always liked Pam. I just thought she was very spunky, very fun. She always seemed to make the best of the hands that she was dealt. She leaned heavily into being the sexy girl that she was. And Pam today, one of the best documentaries I've ever watched, like on a person. is hers on Netflix. I highly recommend it. It gives you a whole new perspective and viewpoint of who she is, who she was, because she essentially, that character that she played throughout her life for so many years is not who she is today. But during that time frame, we didn't know what she would become or anything like that. We thought that's just who she was. She was with Damian, a new pro at the time. They actually ended up, I think he referred to it as dating. I don't think she ever thought of it as dating, but they did continue hanging out, even traveling the world after their time on the show. And I just remember her being better than I thought she would, or better than I anticipated what she would be. But I love Miss Pam. So I realized while I was editing last week's YouTube, it was already so long, I forgot to crown the Andy Richter Award for last season. Spoiler alert, I think I would have picked Kelly Osbourne, but I didn't put enough time and effort into it because I had so many notes and so many other things I wanted to talk about in last week's episode that I just never got around to doing that. However, I have this season's Andy Richter Award. If you are new here, if this is your first episode, hi. But every season I crown someone from that season as I give them the Andy Richter Award. And what that means is from season 34, I don't know how many conversations and how many walk and talks were surrounded with the topic of Andy Richter going as far and as long as he did in the show. And there are other episodes, if you want to go check them out, where I go farther into why Andy hung around as long as he did. And then it just realized every season has at least one, if not more, of who I would crown that person. Meaning they weren't the best dancer and you didn't really have high expectations for them, and yet somehow you fell in love with them and you wanted them to keep going, and they were determined to make the best of their time on the show. In comes, congratulations, to Miss Niecy Nash of season 10. You are crowned the Andy Richter Award. Miss Niecy, had so much fun on that show. Her and Louis together, I don't know that I would have seen that outside of the show, but Dina knew what she was doing, as always. And these two together were so much fun. And Niecy ended up coming in 5th out of 11, which is more than the midway point. And it was one of those things that you're just like, wow, she lasted another week. Good job. So that was Niecy. No dramatics with her at all. Just a lot of fun. And she still to this day talks very highly of her time on the show. Okay, so then you have Evan and Nicole, first place and second place. Evan is a figure skater, so he also comes with his own fair share of experience with dance. Figure skating is dance on ice, just 1,000 times harder. I said what I said. But he's familiar with art, with the musicality, the steps, the synchronization. He's familiar with all of that. And then she, as Nicole, especially the Pussycat Dolls, she has all of that without the ice skates. So the two of these, and they're pros. We have Anna with Evan and Derek with Nicole. They got to really up the level of what their choreography abilities were because they had such insane ability with their contestants. This was the season. I don't remember it being, in my mind, I didn't get that sync just yet, but multiple outlets report that this was the season that all of a sudden the outside world was looking in at Derek and what his choreography abilities were, and it is what started his name and what he was capable of doing. And again, I don't remember watching this live being like, wow, like I remember Derek's good. Derek's always been good. And I do remember thinking, like, wow, he can showcase different things because it's Nicole. But it was kind of unique to see how many outlets, media outlets in 2010 were like, keep an eye on this guy. Like, he is going to be a big name. And look at him now. I mean, wow. Like, Derek is truly a dance genius, dance choreography. And it's not just ballroom. I have yet to see Derek live on one of his tours. I say every year I'm going to go to it. And so I didn't buy tickets for this year for his tour he's going. I would love to do nothing more than support him and Haley and their decision to do an insane tour, bringing along their little one. As a new mom, I don't think that I could have done that, but they're from a different world. They're a different mind. They're a different breed. So more power to them. But this wasn't my year to do it. And maybe next year would. Plus, I hear their holiday tour that they do is insanely beautiful. Y'all know how much I love Christmas. So it only makes sense to like maybe hold out, if I've held out this long, that hopefully either this year or next year, they'll do a holiday tour again. And then I'll catch it then. All right, so this week's Mirrorball Minute Answers were given to us by Olympic snowboarder Louis Vito. He was on season 9 with Chelsea, and they were really good. I really enjoyed them together. I honestly thought they were dating, but I don't think they ever actually did, or it was never confirmed. With that being said, Louis sent me his answers to his Mirrorball questions, and so I'm going to share them with you guys. What is one word to describe your season on the show? Transformative, or for more than one word, a whole new world. Again, just remember, I always find it fascinating when an athlete comes into the ballroom with zero dance background. I think it is, I mean, he said it, transformative. You're really getting yourself out of your box and experiencing something completely new. And oftentimes that can be extremely overwhelming. And I'm sure there are plenty of celebrities who have said no because they don't want to experience that. So I give kudos to every celebrity or any person that goes really out of their realm to do this. Anyway, let's go back to this question. Okay, what is your favorite memory of your time on the show? I honestly would say just spending time with the different people that were on the show. Everyone brings their personalities and their experiences. So just spending time with them was fun. Also, seeing how Chuck Liddell or Michael Irvin would get nervous and prepare for shows. Although a lot of the athletes have done their sport at the highest level, we all were out of our comfort zones and deal with nerves and butterflies differently, which is exactly what I literally just touched on. It's very cool to see them. Y'all know how I said Chuck Liddell last season, like, what are you doing in the ballroom? But also, thank you for doing this. Like, so cool. Anyway, back to Louis' answers. What was your favorite dance of your time on the show? I think the rumba or the Argentine tango. It also helps that I think those are two of the better dances I did. I love that. Okay, was it easier or harder than you thought it would be? It was different. I think dealing with frustration and stress was harder because in my sport, I knew how to deal with all of it. With the show, you have to learn this dance because come Monday, you are doing it live with 20+ million people watching regardless, which is crazy. You're right. Like, to think about, you're so used to how you deal with that frustration or stress. You know, on the slopes, I'm sure the cameras are obviously filming him while he's doing his sport, but once he's done, they're really not filming him. So you can work through, oh my gosh, I should have done that better. Oh my God, you know. But then with this, the cameras are rolling nonstop and that, yeah. These are perspectives that should come more natural to the viewer. Like, oh my gosh, I have to go through this. But really, like, I didn't think about it like that, but he said that. If you were asked back for a new All-Star season, would you consider? 100%. It was such a great time. The memories, the friendships, and I am competitive, so I'd love to run it back and try to do better than the last time. I'm also older, and I would know how to handle things, how to handle different hurdles better. I do love how no one has said no yet. Like they've said, oh, you know, I'm older, but they would do it. Like I think, again, I cannot say it enough. Like the show has created something extremely special. And regardless if people went home early or not, regardless of the tension, like at least anyone who I've talked to, they would do it again. Like that's so cool. Louis also said the sweetest thing. Does this work? I hope it makes sense. But if it doesn't or you want more, I can fix and add it. Thank you so much. You guys know how much I appreciate when anyone reaches back out to me and wants to share about their time on the show. I think it's so cool for us to see and hear the perspective and insight that they got to experience. So thank you, Louis, for sharing that. Thank you for taking time to do that. And that wraps up season 10, Dancing with the Stars, Beyond the Mirror Ball. Thank you guys so much for being here. As I say every week, I am so appreciative of you. I love all of the messages that you guys send me following these videos. It makes me happy that you guys are watching it, enjoying it. Please, as always, like this video. Feel free to leave any comments below. I do my best to respond to all of them. Subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends about this channel. Follow me over on Instagram or Facebook at Mixing It Up with Melina. I am very, very communicative with you guys over on those pages. So again, send me your messages, send me your thoughts. As always, I'm an open book. Feel free to shoot me over what your thoughts are, what you'd love to see. I will say, next week I am filming my prospect list first round for season 35 contestants. And I am feeling really good about it. Last year, one of the, I think 13 I put out there got selected, but hey, one is better than none. But I think I'm onto something for this year. So I'll put that first round out. And so that will go with, in 2 weeks, so, be released. Y'all have a great rest of your week, and I will chat with you over on Facebook or Instagram.